Now let's do some more combination of things and start to get more complex. So we're going to use a module, and we're going to use multiple function parameters in this one. So we need to install a library first, and this is our first library from the interwebs, if you will, the internet. And what we're going to do is say npm install in the terminal. We're going to say read line sync, and this is a library, and you're going to see it will appear in this node modules folder once it's done installing. So if I click in there, I see this readline sync is installed with these JavaScript files, and Coffee will know where to look for that inside of node modules. That's no problem. And if I check here, this package lock.json, not there, sorry, package.json, we'll see that under dependencies we now have readline sync as an option. One thing we haven't done yet is talked about object destructuring. So actually, let's talk about object destructuring now, and then we'll use that in the next bit. So we're in hello.coffee, and we want to talk about object destructuring real quick. So let's create our main function back. I think we deleted that. And let's call main down here. And an object might be, let's say for example, we'll go back to students. It was just easy and simple to write. Students equals, and name Tim, and this time he's 29, he's in college, and Mary is 32, also in college. They're old college students. That's fine. Save it, and down here we'll say something like console.log students, just so we can see what it is and make sure that's working. So again, we just created an object. Whoops, don't want to do that. Clear coffee hello.coffee. Yep, and we're just printing our object just to make sure it looks right. Delete that line, and now we're going to destructure students. So students is an object, but if I want to just get the variables Tim and the keys Tim and Mary out, I can say something like Tim, comma Mary equals students. And what that's going to allow me to do is I can now just say console.log Tim time Tim and console.log Mary, and that should give me their ages. If I log the key, it should give me their values. So let's run it, and we see, yep, Tim's age is 29 and Mary's age is 32. So this is object destructuring. It works for nested objects also. If we get to that point, we will do an example of that. We're going to use this now in order to import our readline sync function that we npm installed about 5 minutes ago. So let's go up here, and we're going to say import, and without destructuring it would look like this. Import RL from, sorry, we can't use that syntax here. We have to say RL equals require readline sync, like that. And then underneath we could say rl.prompt, like that. And that would be a way to do this, but instead of using this rl.prompt, we don't need to import the whole thing. We just want the prompt function. So let's delete all that, hopefully. Yeah, and instead of doing that, we can just say, we can destructure it on the left hand side and say prompt equals require readline sync, like that. And I might be able to get away without the parentheses around readline sync, but I just want to make sure this works first. So let's go down here, and now we want to prompt the user for some input. Once we do this, we'll talk about the multiple parameters, but let's just make sure this works first. So let's say num1 first number equals prompt, yep, prompt, and we're going to ask the user for some input. Enter first number, like that. And we definitely don't need parentheses here. Don't know what I'm thinking. Let's get rid of that, get rid of that, because prompt is a function, right? This is a function, so we don't need parentheses around this if there's a parameter, which there is. And then we should be able to just console.log num1. Let's try that real quick, see if it works. Okay, it's prompting for a number. Let's say 333. Perfect, we get 333 back out. Now notice that it didn't accept this variable, and that's okay. Let's delete that, no problem. And I think what we need to do here is just add those, and we want to prompt them above it with a console.log enter first num, like this. And then we'll prompt them, we'll get it, we'll log it. Let's do it again, clear, make sure we're getting that statement. Yep, enter first num 333, and we get, whoops, we get 333 back out, which is what we want. So we know prompt is working. We destructured it from this library that we've imported via node modules and shows up in the package.json under dependencies. And now we've used it to log something. Now we want to create a function that will add a first and second number together. So we're going to delete this. I'm going to yank these two lines and paste them here. And now we're going to say console.log enter second num. And we're going to prompt for a num2 like that. And underneath we're going to call add nums. And of course add nums, we could just add them right here, right? But for this example, let's say total equals add nums, and we want to pass it in num1. In JavaScript you'd write multiple parameters like this, right? Num1, num2. In Coffee you don't need that, it's more fluid. You just say num1 space num2 like that, and it'll know, it picks up on that. Now we have to create our add nums function, right? So let's go back here, add nums. It takes in two parameters, so we're going to need equals, and then we need parentheses here, num1, num2 like that. And we're just going to simply say return num1 plus num2 like that. We go back up here, and now we can console.log the total. Save it. So we should enter the first number with the prompt, enter the second number, get the second number, add the two numbers together down here, return the total into total, and log the total. We could also just console.log this, and I'll show you that in a second. Let's make sure it works. Let's add 33 and 44. Oh, we get an error. Num1 is not a function. Okay, so we might need parentheses here is what I'm getting, because it thinks num2 is the argument to num1, and that's not the case, right? So I lied. We might need parentheses here. Let's find out. Num1, num2. So if you have multiple parameters, you may need these parentheses. I don't know if it's smart enough to know that. So let's try it. There we go, 33, 44. And you can see our total is 3344. Now why is that? It's because these are two strings, and I didn't parse it because we're using CoffeeScript, aka JavaScript compiled. And when we get a number, it becomes a string, and adding a string to a string gets us the concatenation of those two strings, which is bad. You can see a couple things are going wrong here. That's okay though, we can fix this. So what we have to do is we have to parse these into ints. So parse int like that. We're just going to surround prompt like that. And same thing down here, parse int. Oops, forgot to add the second parenthesis. So we're getting the argument, and then we're parsing it into an integer, and we're storing that integer in, or that number in the variable. When we go to add the two variables now, we should get an actual total. And I think I want to say console.log, and let's use some string interpolation here. So we'll say something like double quotes, your total is, brackets with the number sign in front, total, and that's our variable. Now let's clear it, run it, enter first num 33, enter second num 44. Your total is 77. Perfect. So we've used a library that we've imported, we destructured an object, we got some user input, and we logged the total.